Okay. Eggy, can we stop recording when the Q&A, yeah?
Yep, sure.
Thanks. Excellent. We already got 5 people in the room. 1 minute to go. That's funny. Yeah, 6 people, 5 people. Yeah. It'd be great. I mean, the thing with webinars, and I know I don't want to teach grammar at SAP, but everybody wants to hear what technical experts have to say about the technicalities of things, right? That's why they come along. They're not coming along to feel good, right? You know, they're coming along to hear and what Christoph's saying, what you're saying, right? You know, they want that's what they want, right? You know, so you can't be too boring, right?
I'll try not to be.
no, you can't be, right? It's no problem, yeah. So just enjoy it, right? You know, so cool. Okay, excellent, right? We're ready to go? Well, I like your background, yeah?
Yeah, that's
your background is...
No, leave it like that, it's great, yeah?
That's the one you sent me, isn't it?
Is it?
No,
oh, shit.
No, it's not.
Just use that, just use it, right?
Is it?
It's okay. Yeah.
No, that's my background. No, that's...
Right, I'm going to let everybody in, okay?
I sent you the right one.
Yeah. I'm just trying to find it. Sorry, that's...
Right.
I just can't find it now.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, no worries.
I'll do green screen at the moment because
yeah, Arch.
Hey guys, so a lot of boxes behind you there, Graham.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, that was a couple of trips to IKEA, or about 10 trips to IKEA.
You're not moonlighting as a FedEx employee in the background.
No, mate, no.
Might be less painful than delivering an SAP project.
It might be.
Yeah, we have some examples in that area. Hey, Willem. How are you these days?
Well, you're not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Keeping
everyone.
Willem and Dylan. Sounds very similar.
Oh, yeah, Dylan and Willem. Yeah, okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no worries, all good. How have you been, Willem? Been a while since we talked.
Very good, very good. I'm curious to hear your story in your new company.
Oh yeah, and look what a nice location we have. I mean, my background is where we have our new office. It's not exactly in that big tower yet, but I mean, we have big aspirations, yeah.
That's very good, very good.
Let me...
And cloud.
After we're finished, by the way, Graham, I want you to send me that box's background. I like it, right? That's spot on, right? I think it's brilliant. I really like it.
To give you an idea, that was we've just moved into a new house, and that was our master bedroom with all the boxes from all the stuff we had delivered. Yeah, so that was our dumping ground. But happy to share it. I can share it with an IKEA logo.
Yeah.
Alrighty, I think we're pretty close to the actual start. So I'll put the presentation on screen, and then get the show on the road. Let me see. Sorry about that. All right, so welcome everyone. Welcome to the webinar. So right now I don't see who is in the meeting and so forth. So from now on, if there's anything, please put it in the chat. If you have any questions or something like that, or turn on your audio and turn on your camera and just prompt a question. So session today is about cleaning the core. Now I think people in the SAP space have a lot of stories around this because SAP is really driving these messages. But what does it then really mean, and how do you go about this? Now today, and now I need to see, we have the next slide. So today we are 2 people, and it's not just me talking. So probably last time you saw me from, well, I have this background in SAP and outsourcing and offshoring and so forth. So from that perspective, I've been exposed quite a lot to what SAP is doing and what is happening in the broader offshoring and SAP ERP space. But I've also brought in Graham Storm, who has joined me in Icon earlier this year. He is someone with a very broad and deep technical background on SAP. I suggest, Graham, maybe you give them a bit of background on your whereabouts and so forth, and we go from there.
Absolutely, mate. Thank you. And thanks everybody for joining. So yeah, as Christoph said, my name's Graham Storm. As you can tell by the accent, I'm from Australia. But done a lot of work across the whole of the Asia Pac region and actually globally in a number of roles. So my SAP background, scarily enough, goes back to R2 days, the mainframe version. So it's sort of showing an age, but it's always been in a functional area. So my background's finance, but I've progressed over that 28 plus years into project management, program management, solution architect roles, always working very closely with our clients and getting the best out of what SAP can do for their processes. So joining Icon was a critical move for me, and obviously that's why I'm part of this conversation, and hopefully my deep expertise will be of value in this session.
I have no doubt. Graham. So maybe a little bit of background on Icon. So Icon has been around for the last 7-8 years. We have a historical background in terms of technology staffing, and since this year we really focus on services, which is why I joined and why Graham joined and so forth. So we really bring the services angle. We have a pretty decent geographic footprint across Southeast Asia, Japan, and Australia, and we're really focusing on elevating and our service levels and bringing them to customers in the region. Then we actually go into the meat of things. So Clean Core, you are the ones under you who actually were here with us last time around. Will have seen this slide before, except the content was a little bit different. So what is this thing that is called Clean Core? Now, so in essence, this is not an SAP specific term, it's actually a cloud term. And a Clean Core is basically a description of a software system which is easily extensible, where you guard your core system of modifications, because then your upgrade cycles become more complex and so forth. But still, to be able to cater to extensions, you need to make sure that there is flexibility around the core. So you have integrations, side-by-side extensions, and what have you. So this is kind of the concept that in a cloud world allows you to evolve on the longer term, 10, 15 years, in an easy way. We do away with all these complex, very difficult upgrade cycles that are horrendously expensive and so forth. No one wants that. So you want this Clean Core. It's a great principle that not just SAP applies, but most of the real cloud vendors try to live by. But then if you have an old system, so how do you get there? What do you do with all these years of investment and so forth? And how do you get your bearings on this? And that's basically what we're going to be looking into today. So all great. This is the objective. This is a different representation. So many customers who are on SAP in ECC, but even some on S/4HANA, have the left side of the picture, this our premise or private cloud hosted solutions, which either contain a lot of standard functionality with custom code or custom processes integrated. That's the old way of doing things. And the new way you can see visualized on the right, conceptually, everything nice and clean, easy to upgrade, and all the custom code or custom extensions and so forth are in a side-by-side setup. Then I'll hand over to Graham to identify where in a Clean Core are the working areas or the focus areas. Graham, over to you.
Okay, thanks, mate. And that previous slide that Christoph mentioned, that's obviously a perfect utopia of what's possible. And that ECC depiction is very much familiar from my perspective, and probably a lot of you, in that you always start with the plan of being standard, but it never ends up that way over time. So the purpose of this slide is to really show the different Clean Core dimensions that are focusing on ensuring that we maintain the Clean Core of an S/4HANA solution. And the first one, and probably from my perspective, one of the most important, is around data. Now, data is not just your traditional master data that you think of with customers and suppliers and asset master records or GL accounts. It's actually a combination of that being master data, plus also all your configuration data. So what you actually do to influence the SAP system to do what you want it to do from a standard process perspective, as well as the transaction data, which is the output of both the use of the master data plus the configuration that you've implemented into your solution. So that is critical, and I think in a lot of cases that is where a lot of the customization or moving away from the clean core is done, and especially around the configuration. Now, the next element from a clean core is around the processes. So everybody has the best of intentions, as I touched on earlier, to adopt standard processes, and SAP does it very well in delivering a standard set of best practice processes. The biggest challenge is, each individual client and customer and business unit within a client wants to do their processes in a different way. And that's where the customization element comes in. That's when you start to deviate from standard data. And that's where it becomes difficult to extend. So, one of the key benefits of being able to stick to a clean core concept is the extensibility. Now, in the older versions of SAP, whether it be ECC or R3, those extensions became very, very difficult if you started doing modifications in the system. You had to if you have to do continual upgrades, suddenly you've got to then pull the code out and do upgrades of the modifications. That's not a simple task, and it's not an easy task. And it takes time and it takes money. Where this concept of sticking to a clean core, sticking to standard processes within your core ERP, allows you to then extend alongside that. Now, whether it's the use of BTP, whether it's the use of new applications, whether it's complementary products, it still keeps your core fundamental solution standard, simple, and extendable. And I think they're very, very important. That then leads down to the integrations. So that integration, SAP as part of its standard product suite has built standard APIs and integrations with external solutions, with its complementary products, to enable the core ERP, the core cloud ERP to remain standard. So all the fundamentals are there. It's really just then adopting the mindset that we have to stick to that clean core concept. There's some tools that we'll show in the coming slides that will incorporate that. The other two elements on this slide talk about software stack and operations. Now, as part of the whole cloud concept that SAP have moved to, this is where SAP still want to have an element of control and management over your solutions. And the software stack is obviously driven by SAP as part of your bill of materials and what you procure from a product perspective. And the operations is how you run your SAP solution in an operational capacity. So they still have very much their hands involved in how you maintain the system, how you run, how you stay current with all of the releases that they have, and they can influence how you stay clean and obviously use the extensibility with the new apps that they adopt, the new function and feature that they always bring out, every quarter or every 6 months, as well as their complementary products as well. So they're very much still involved in ensuring that compliance, but with the four key dimensions around data, process, extensibility, and integration. That's where us as partners and you as SAP users have that background in making sure that that's adopted as well.
All right. So next, we actually prepared a little bit of a poll to get a bit of insight on the people in the call, what you believe your maturity level or your challenge level is in your organization around these different elements. So you see the poll online, every question. So you will see master data extensions and so forth. So all of them will be reflected, the 4 key ones. So if you could do me a favor and just give me an idea on where you think you're gonna be in terms of maturity level or challenge level, where 1 is, I mean, we don't really see much problems, it's all easy and so forth. And a 5 is, I really don't know where to start. It's gonna be horrendously difficult, we're disorganized, and we see a lot of challenges in front of us. So please take a few moments to go through the questions, and then we'll share the results of the poll in a minute. Now, to build on what Graham just mentioned, if you look software stack and operations, those are the 2 areas that, of course, in the future you can't control yourself. And the areas, when we do this clean core assessment and we take steps towards understanding what your path is towards a clean core, the vectors that you can influence is basically the 4 things that we just mentioned, and that we're actually calling about as well. I mean, what we see in most organizations, and what Graham also alluded to earlier, is master data or data is almost everywhere a nightmare. There is very few companies that really have that under control, and some are worse than others, but it's a problem pretty much everywhere. So we see the same kind of picture in different customers.
Yeah, in particular, yeah, data and integration. I think in every SAP project, whether it's an implementation project, an upgrade, or a support arrangement, the 2 topics that come up all the time are data and integration. Everyone can adopt a standard process. Processes are quite similar. Between organizations, there are exceptions, but the 2 key topics are always data and integration as their biggest pain points.
Okay, so we had about 2.5 minutes into the poll, so I'll end the poll and put the results on screen, which you should see now. So if we look at master data, I think this reflects roughly what we mentioned before. Quite a few people that believe that they have challenges, but surprisingly, quite a few that believe that they're very in great shape. So I would love to talk to these people because it's that's actually really great. Then in terms of extensions, customization seems to be, again, leaning towards, we have a lot of extensions and customizations and so forth. So that's probably going to be a working area. Business process optimization, similar picture again, hardly anyone that believes that they don't have problems. I think business process optimization is always it's evolving insight. Let's call it like this. Your organization is going to change, so it's something that will forever be a working point, yeah. And then integration. I'm actually a bit surprised that many people see that they have big challenges in terms of integration, because usually it's a fairly technical affair, which with the right skill sets and the right people, you should be able to manage relatively straightforward. So if there are big challenges expected in that area, that's a bit more surprising for me. Shall I stop the share and shall we continue the presentation? Ken? All right.
Yep. Interesting results, especially the business process one. That was interesting from my perspective, having a business background, and obviously, SAP in its wisdom is trying to, follow standard processes, and to see such a varied response is interesting, and it leads in nicely to, I think, what we're now looking to talk to around, doing a clean core assessment framework. So we talked about the dimensions of clean core in the previous slide. What we're now looking to do is how do we bring that to life? How do we actually work out, okay, what's our current state versus what can we get to from a future state perspective? And you'll see on the left hand side you've got the 5 dimensions that we talked about earlier. And what we're really showcasing in this slide is there is an initial journey of 30 days to get you a really good understanding of what your current state is from a data, from a technical, from a process perspective, and also a mechanism and a roadmap as to how to get there. So I think what we'll do is we'll step through in the coming slide around some of the tool sets that actually showcase that. But the really important part is trying to make sure you maximize the investment of what you've already put into your SAP solutions, from an ECC perspective in particular, seeing what you can leverage out of that, and seeing what has moved to standard from an S4 perspective, but then also making sure that you are moving to that standard, future ERP solution, and you're not just replicating what you've already got with an S4 logo on top of it rather than an ECC logo. So the key elements is you have the initial discovery journey or the clean core assessment journey. You then look at what benefits can be realized in moving from your current state to your future state. Now, some of those are much shorter and quick win than some of the other ones, depending on the level of maturity you want to get to, but also the level of customization and non-standard you've got in your current solution. Do you want to go to the next slide, XT?
Yeah, maybe one last thing I would like to add to this one is, you can see this is, or everyone that has anything to do with SAP will see that this is a standard SAP slide.
Yeah.
The reason why we kept it standard SAP is because this is actually a service by SAP that they run largely free of charge.
Yep.
So you can engage SAP and they will help you. And they work with partners like us to go through the process. But in principle, this doesn't cost you any cents. So it's important to get it started if you can. Talk to your SAP AE and get the process rolling. Because what comes out of this is a set of actions. And that is actually what we're going to be looking at next.
Yep. Yeah,
all right,
point.
Graham. So
nifty. I love the term.
We have some nifty tools. I mean, it's impressive what SAP did. If you look at the tools that they made available for this, it's pretty decent. So you're looking at some of the things like clean core maturity assessment, which is more documentary in nature. Hold on now.
Next one. Yep.
Yeah, that's the one. So you can see this is an Excel sheet with a bunch of overviews on an assessment where you are at this particular state with respect to particular dimensions. So there is a documentary aspect, a lot of conversations that need to happen and so forth. But there is also actual technical tools, which will take you a step further. And all of that will be brought into this type of overview where you see in one overview on where you are today and what the potential is that you could potentially go and reach. Now, many people like me, the techies, they will really go and dive into the technical side of things because we're worried about the technical code. So how does that get managed? That part gets managed by a custom code migration assessment tool, which will basically really go through all the code that you have in your system, table extensions, and you name it, everything that is not standard. We'll identify it and we'll classify it on what needs to happen for it to be ported to another environment, to be replaced, or to identify whether or not it is superseded by standard functionality in S/4HANA, because that's a scenario that actually also happens quite frequently. If you're on ECC, certain functionality will be superseded, some of it will be deprecated, and so forth. And these are different scenarios that all are captured in this combination of different tools. Now, Graham, this one is your area because it's functional process mining. Yep. Yeah.
This is my one, and I find this quite exciting actually, because if you'd had this a few years ago, or Signavia has been around for a little while, you may have heard of it, but this is a really beneficial tool that it's not just for the start of an assessment if you're moving from ECC to S4. It really does enable you to get a good understanding from a process perspective where your current state processes are. And if you look at the poll that was done earlier, there was quite a bit of variation as to where people thought their processes were from a standard perspective. This would validate that. This would actually show you from an as-is perspective where your processes are against standard SAP. Not from a technical perspective like the previous tool, But also then what it does is it then gives you a roadmap as to how closely aligned are those processes to a standard 2B SAP S4 solution. So it's almost giving you an accelerator into your, what you would have done in previous SAP projects, your detailed design phase. It's giving you an accelerator to that to identify, okay, finance is a 60, 70% fit, but manufacturing is a 30% fit from your current state to what your future state is. Now, that has a lot of benefits. One, it allows you to prioritize, where the value is in moving to standard processes. Secondly, it underlies the potential change impact as well that your businesses will have. If there's a majority shift from you're currently at 10% and you want to get to 90% in your maturity model, that's going to involve a very, very big business change. So the Signavio, modeling tool, it's not just a tool at the discovery stage. It can be used throughout the life cycle of the project and also throughout the life cycle of your operations as well. So I do love this, and it's actually very, very beneficial with a lot of quick visibility as to where you're moving to.
Yeah, and maybe the one thing which I always find cool about the Signavio is that tools like this basically use the transactional data and the timestamping of all the transactions in your system to visualize your existing processes and the variance of the various processes. So you have your happy flow, and then you have a visual on, I have one happy flow and I have 20 variants. And then you can basically determine how often do people shortcut a particular step of the process and all these kind of things, and then see what kind of steps you can or should take to basically go towards a more standardized process flow.
Yeah, and it also helps document, instead of going back to the old ways of Aris and Visio in documenting what your 2B process flows are. This does it for you.
Yeah. So in essence, with the tools that we just shown you, you will basically look at data, at integrations, at your processes, and from there, you will also look at what kind of extensions or what kind of work you need to do around the extension, and you can build a roadmap. Now, the roadmap will basically have some low-hanging fruit. In some areas, you will have quick wins and so forth, as is customary. And in some areas, you will need to have like a real strategy to port specific types of functionality and so forth, because it will take time to develop a strategy to take it out of the old system, put it in a side-by-side and so forth. Now, from a technical perspective, there are a lot of options available these days. So you can basically take some of the old code out of your ECC and put it in a side-by-side option as an ABAP extensibility function. So that is one of the things that you can do within certain circumstances. There are situations where this is not going to achieve the original functionality or something like that, in which case you may need to rebuild some functionality and so forth. But all of this is actually part of the outcome of the assessment. And then we can start to plan on which things do you take on first. Are you going to do process redesign and so forth? And you can kind of create a roadmap for yourself towards a situation where your system is ready for a relatively easy migration, because then you're more standardized and the migration to S4 will, of course, become a lot easier. So this is it from a high level. We will open the floor for questions. I don't know if anyone put any questions into the chat, but I suggest that I stop the presentation now and that we just open the floor.